I'm really excited today. We've got Caprice Collins in the house, Harvard Law School graduate and estate planning attorney. Caprice is a noted speaker on living trust, estate planning, business planning, and trust administration. Jason, did you know that 55% of Americans pass away without a trust?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, well, planning your estate isn't easy, but it's something that we all have to address. And we're really grateful to have Caprice in the studio today to walk us through this process.
How you got involved in estate planning?
Well, Jason, I originally did a lot of litigation early on in my legal career, and then I had a client who was very concerned about his family and what might happen to him as a result of his unexpected passing. And so he encouraged me to prepare the documents necessary to protect his family. And as a result of that particular client and then my own life experiences, I decided that I wanted to go into a area of practice that would allow me to actually help families protect what they had. Mm-hmm. And estate planning is really the key area of practice that I found. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people don't understand that estate planning has nothing to do about death in certain aspects. It's about what if we slip on a banana peel, what if we have a traffic accident, and unfortunately we've left children, spouses, other relatives unable to provide for them because of our disability. What can they expect? What will be there to protect them? So let's first understand that it's not just about death. It's just about things that can happen to any of us driving down the freeway. Mm-hmm. And anyone over the age of 18 should have some estate planning documents, essential documents. Those documents are an advanced healthcare directive, which determines who would make decisions for you if you were unable to make your own medical decisions. Mm-hmm. Those include things like end-of-life choices, so will we want to be on life support indefinitely if certain conditions were present in our medical condition at that time, and things like having also a power of attorney for financial affairs. Right. Those two documents, everyone over the age of 18, no matter what your income level, no matter what your family structure, these are there to protect you and whatever you have. Allow someone that you trust to care for you in those situations. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if anyone ever remember the story about a young woman in Florida many years ago by the name of Teri Shivo. Teri was only 25 years of age when she had a heart attack. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that heart attack, Teri was in a vegetative state for 15 years. Wow. So who would have thought that a 25-year-old would need something? Right. Who would have thought she would have had a heart attack, and who would have thought it would have resulted in her being in a vegetative state for 15 years? Those are the things we need to all be aware of and all need to be prepared for. Now, when we start talking about planning for assets, that's when we start talking about wills and trusts. Mm-hmm. What would happen to our assets if something were to happen to us? Mm-hmm. The main difference between a will and a trust is that a will is basically supposed to end when we pass away. In other words, it takes effect then, and then it's meant to distribute our assets, and then it's over with. Okay. But a trust is something that does all of that. It also protects us while we're alive if we become incapacitated, but it also has the ability to last for generations. Mm. So if we want to protect a child and want to make sure that child goes through college with some supervision and protection financially, the trust is what we would want to use, not a will.
Mm-hmm. Caprice, that's really interesting because you oftentimes think you don't really have to plan until you start, I just turned 30 and I would think, I don't have all the wealth that I want to distribute yet, so you don't really think about planning for those different things until you've kind of arrived and accumulated all those things that you want to end up giving to someone else.
I think there's probably a few life events that we would want to say should be pivotal and determining. One is when you become a parent. Okay, mm-hmm. So now you have the responsibility for a little life that's completely dependent on you. And we do need to at least establish guardianship, who would be the guardian of my child. And then anything that you have in mind for that child to be protected by, whether it be real estate or a life insurance policy, we'd want to be able to control and direct that in the case of a child. We also want to make sure that when we get married, that we put our spouse in a position of helping us should we become disabled, or put our spouse in a position of actually benefiting from what we leave behind. Simply being married and having community property law does not mean that our spouse would receive something from us. So these are the kind of pivotal life events that we could know that we need to do something. The other one is owning real estate. Whenever we've made a purchase of real estate, then we are putting that real estate at great risk if we've not made some form of plan. You would have picked a person you trust, someone that you have confidence in, someone that you know has integrity and honesty, and that would honor your intentions at a time in the future, like if you slipped on that banana peel, making sure that your mortgage remains paid, your taxes remain paid, those types of things that will maintain you until you're in a better place to take care of yourself. Or if you passed away, making sure that that property goes to your wife, your child, whomever you wanted to have it. So that person has to have integrity. They don't have to be a brain surgeon or attorney or accountant, but someone that you trust by the way that they've handled their own transactions. You've seen them to be wise, and you would put them in control if needed.
I know you have a personal story that relates to reverse mortgage in your mother's estate.
In my case, my mom lived a long life. She lived to be 96 years old, and at 95, she made a reverse mortgage primarily to make improvements to her home so that we could rent it because she was no longer living there. And as a result, we got a good reverse mortgage, but we got it at the high in the market. We got it in 2007 when property values were at their absolute high. And then my mom passed away in 2008, and within a year of making that mortgage, the property was worth 50% less than it had been at the time of her death, or at the time it made the reverse mortgage. So I was put under tremendous pressure, even though my mother was 96, and I knew it was going to happen sooner or later. Of course, you lose someone that you love. That's an amount of stress you deal with, and grief. But then having to deal with the reverse mortgage, and as most of you already know, there are specific parameters when someone passes away or even leaves the home. If you leave your home more than 6 months with a reverse mortgage, the mortgage becomes due. An individual passes away leaving a reverse mortgage, it becomes due. And there's a time period, initially 6 months, which can be extended to 1 year, that people can take action to try to either repay the mortgage or sell the property.
For the listener, can you explain reverse mortgage? What does that mean?
Well, it means that a person can borrow on their home without having credit, without having income, after age 62 or older, and basically have a mortgage that does not have to be paid back until after their death. And reverse mortgages are not for everyone, but for various people they are very valuable to have. Maybe someone needs home care, needs to stay in their home. Maybe they have a mortgage they can no longer afford to pay, and this is a way to refinance it without having to actually start making payments again. So it's something that I encourage people to do when they need it. It's not for everyone. But in my case with my mom, we did it, and after her death, I had 3 options. I could short sell the property, I could do a deed in lieu, meaning hand the property back over to the lender, or I could sell it. And this was my mother's home, which, wasn't a big deal, wasn't, in Beverly Hills, but as far as my mother was concerned, this was her legacy. And so I chose to do something other than give it back to the bank.
Now, with the baby boomer generation coming, now of age to really start planning for these things seriously, even though you should start at 18, what kind of changes have you seen with volume and kind of just what's going on right now? So
many of us baby boomers, like myself, caring for a parent in their elderly years, are realizing just how important this is. And unfortunately, often it is because of mistakes that their parent made, or things their parent didn't plan for, like long-term care. So someone in their 50s now has to care for a 70 or 80-year-old parent who needs home health care, or needs to be in assisted living or nursing home, and all of a sudden understand that Medicare doesn't cover that, and that we're talking about thousands of dollars a month potentially. And so I think part of the experience that us baby boomers are having is being in the position of caring for their own parents, and as a result, I think we're getting wiser to some degree as to what's really important to have planned for in context of protecting ourselves. That's probably the biggest wake-up call that us baby boomers are having, is being responsible for our parents. I really advise people to be attentive to your parent. You know, if no more than when you come in and you visit them, look at the mail that's sitting on their table. Notice things that are out of place, or calls that are coming into the home that you weren't familiar with the person's calling. Be attentive, because if you're not attentive, there are possibly other people who will be attentive to your parent that will take advantage of them. And so be careful about that. You know, even be attentive about what your siblings might be doing with your parent. Sometimes the persons closest to our family are the ones we need to fear the most. We also find that women are usually the people who control estate planning. They're usually, whether in a couple or single, are people who are more likely to plan than men. Unfortunately, guys, I'm sorry, to tell you the truth, but they're usually going to be the ones who are going to take control. So this series of events that we have coming up is going to be about, are you prepared to make a wise choice to make a smart woman's estate plan? We have them upcoming in Redondo Beach on Tuesday, July 24th at 10 a.m. Palos Verdes, Wednesday, July 25th at 10 a.m. Manhattan Beach, Thursday, July 26th at 10 a.m. and Torrance, Saturday, July 28th at 10 and 2. And those are all available through my website, www.collinslawgroup.com.
I really want to thank you, Caprice, for coming out. I appreciate your time. And we want to remind you, and oh, by the way, I want to thank my co-host, Jason J.
Oh, I know it.
So we want to remind you that we're here every Saturday at 3 p.m. on Call Toni Real Estate Radio, KTLK AM 1150, where we're bringing you tools for positive change. If you tuned in late and you'd like to go back and listen to the full show, please go to calltoni.com and click on the previous show's link. And remember, you can always call us here at our offline number, which is 888-309-9797. We thank you for tuning in. We want you to have a great weekend. Have a magical weekend. Thanks again.